Ladies and gentlemen, the Madones.
You make me burn like a whip flame powder.
The Madones, they had that big hit song.
One-hit wonders.
You have to take her to the hospital.
She's not suicidal.
She was standing in the middle of an intersection.
You have to take her. She's your mother. She's your sister.
Barry, congratulations on the film, The Madones. Where did this idea come from?
Well, you know, I had an interest in mental health issues from some personal experience and from friends and family. So I thought that'd make an interesting film. The one thing I tried to make sure, if I was going to make a film about a mental illness, was not to make it pretentious, not to make it precious, preachy. So I thought, I think I can do that, but how? So the next thing that came to me was the idea of music. If we introduce some music to the film. And then I thought about the idea of a musical group, three sisters, and maybe that they can be the conduits to tell this story. And so that's where the idea came from. So it came from personal experience and then imagination, I guess.
One of the things that you hear about all the time with filmmaking is casting and getting the right person to play a role. And certainly in this film, the importance of that main character of Rose. What was the casting like, and when did you know that Lucy was the right one?
Oh, that's a good question, Scott. You know, I knew Lucy was I wrote for these three characters. These were the three actors that I wanted in the film. I had some trepidation when I started thinking, well, they're all busy, they're all doing other things, maybe they're not available. And then you start to think, oh, but I was lucky. They were the ones that I wanted. I, of course, have worked with Lucy for years on Trailer Park Boys. I've known Lenore for years. And Tara, interestingly enough, I've been a fan of Tara's acting work for 2 decades. She had a small part in season 1 Trailer Park Boys. And I think she had 1 or 2 lines. But I thought, oh my gosh, she's just an amazing actress. So I finally got her. And she was the one, I think, because she works constantly. And I thought, she may be the difficult one. She was hard to find.
And it's interesting, chatting with the three of them, you can see the camaraderie that they have. And one of the things they talked about that I thought was interesting, that obviously the overtone of this film, it's a heavy subject matter when you're talking about schizophrenia, mental health, but also the fracture of family and trying to bring all that together. But they talked about a lot of the levity and fun times and laughter that they had offset between takes. From a director's perspective, how important do you think that between scene stuff and the offset camaraderie and laughter helped pushing the more heavy tone of mental health issues? Well,
that's a good point. And just to touch on what you said, it is a film. To me, I describe it this way. It's not a film about schizophrenia. It's a film about 3 sisters, one of whom has schizophrenia, because it is a heavy subject matter. But to answer your question about the camaraderie among the 3, you know, it can work for and against, I think, but in this case, it worked for. And so they were tremendous because they formed that camaraderie. They were sisters on camera when they had to be, and they were sisters off camera. And they were able to bring the dramatic tensions when they came to this. That's why I mean sometimes it can be for and against. They're out there hooting and hollering and they come on, they have to be antagonistic toward one another. But their relationship among those 3 sisters was just perfect to me for the film.
You've had lots of experience around film and television, both in front of and behind the camera. But this is your first time directing a feature-length film. Going into it, Barry, what was the thing that you were maybe a little bit most concerned about for yourself in taking on this role?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. You know, I think the most difficult time as a first-time director, I think the thing I was most concerned with was working with the actors. You know, I think being an actor myself gave me some advantages, but I'm not sure. You know, so but then there were the technical side of things, of which I knew nothing. You know, I knew nothing about cameras. I was so fortunate to have Becky Parsons, our director of photography, and we, I think, developed a really good relationship on this set. So there's a technical, you know, director's responsible for everything. You know, I mean, you've got people to create, hair, makeup, wardrobe, all of that, you know, sound. But at the same time, you have to be on top of everything. So that was daunting. I'll tell you this story. This is this I think kind of humanizes it. You know, as I say, I've been on set many, many times, and you hear the director call to action, right? But as an actor, you're not even aware of it. My first time directing, we were very first day on set. We were shooting actually in Seaforth, an exterior, on a cold winter day. And I leaned over to Becky, my director of photography, and said, "When do I call action?" After that, it was smooth sailing.
Smooth sailing after that, right?
Yeah. I got the handle on it.
So, the way that you were thinking about it going in, once you had directed the film and it was finally edited into the final product that you're putting in front of folks to see on the big screen in theaters and also on streamers coming up soon, what were some takeaways after the fact that maybe surprised you and that you didn't think would, that you would learn directing a feature?
Boy, these are good questions, Scott. I think the takeaways that I had from directing the film was how crucial it is for casting. You alluded to that earlier. But from the story point of view, I think what I take from it is that it's a collaborative effort from everybody. Mike Clattenburg, who everybody knows is the creator of Trailer Park Boys, always used to say on set, I welcome all ideas, the best one wins. And I thought that was a really good approach. So I think that collaborative approach to filmmaking, you cannot make, a director, nobody can make a film on their own. It's not a one-person show. So that was a big part of it. I look forward to doing it again if I ever get the chance,
Will there be another directing?
Well, I don't know. Again, I think this was a low-budget feature in a sense. It was a good size budget for us. I think people were more willing to take a chance on a first-time director. I have projects in the works now that I think are on a grander scale that I don't think I would feel comfortable directing, to be honest. But I would love to do another feature like this on this level. I mean, that's what I loved about doing Trailer Park Boys, those very first seasons. We had a crew of 10, 12. We drove around in a van. We stop here and get out and do a scene, hop back in the van. I love that kind of filmmaking. I love that. But of course, if you're going on a bigger scale, which I hope to do with a couple of projects that we have, I don't think I would feel comfortable directing those yet. I'm not needing a couple more under my belt.
Well, we'll keep following you, see what happens. Now,
thank you.
As passionate as I am about film and filmmaking and television, I'm also passionate about sports. I'm going to ask you kind of a sports-related question, but I'm going to bring it back to directing.
You bet.
I like to ask coaches of teams, what style of coach are you and what's your team identity? I'll ask you as a director, how would you describe yourself as a director? And if you were talking to some folks that have worked with you, what would you like them to say in terms of what your identity is as a director? I would like people to say, the people that I've worked with, especially on this film, I would hope that they would say that, to use your analogy to sports, I hope they would say I'm a player's coach. I allude again to what I said earlier, that it's a collaborative process. This is a creative process. Everybody on the set has a role in creating. So I welcomed that, and I took Mike Clattenburg's advice and said the best idea wins. In his case, it was usually his idea. In my case, I think it was usually my idea because I have, directors have to have a sense of it, but I always welcomed input. And I certainly got it from the three women you just interviewed, and thank God I did, because they helped. And from Becky Parsons, our director of photography. A lot of impactful scenes in this film, and certainly the first 5 minutes or so really sets the tone of the main character, Rose. But a lot of times films are shot out of sequence, maybe the closing scene is shot at the beginning or the beginning scene is shot later on. But of all of the scenes that you shot, and some of them, again, are just very visually and emotionally impactful, what was the most challenging scene to shoot and why? Yeah,
good question again, Scott. The most challenging scenes, I think, were the ones in Stella's apartment. And that doesn't mean anything to viewers yet because they haven't seen the film. But we had big cast days. I think at one point we had 8 of our 10 cast in the scene in a small apartment. It's very difficult to block a scene, which means to say where the camera's going, where the actors are going. That was very daunting. And we shot, again, I'm not sure that this will have a context, Will, for you, but we shot half of the script, I would say, maybe a third of the script in 2 days. 15 pages a day, that's a lot of script. And so that was daunting, if that answers your question. That was daunting. Shooting in the winter in Nova Scotia, of course, our very first day, Scott, we had a snowstorm. And the next day, and that provides continuity problems because you're shooting, as you say, out of sequence. One day you've got absolute grass or whatever. Next day you're shooting in snow. So that was an issue for us as well.
We've certainly experienced that lately, but let me ask you about Nova Scotia. You know, you're originally from Pictou,
yes,
living now over around the Porters Lake area, but the majority of the film shot in Porters Lake, Seaforth, Muscat, Albert Harbour. Why was it important to shoot it at home, close to home?
Well, to shoot it in Nova Scotia was a given, of course. But you know, the thing I like about the Eastern Shore, that area, is that to me it's the real Nova Scotia. No, you know, it's not like the South Shore, the pristine little fishing villages that are on all the postcards and that people think of when they come to Nova Scotia. The Eastern Shore has got a ruggedness to it, and that's one of the things that I liked, that I wanted this film to have, was a sort of a grittiness, you know, a realism. And there's a shot that we shot it right just outside Seaforth Beach. It's Nova Scotia to me. It's when the Rose character goes, and it's a beautiful shot, and to me that's Nova Scotia. That's my Nova Scotia, and I love that part of the world of the Eastern Shore.
Why black and white?
You know, black and white was important, and it was never any discussion for me. It had to be in black and white. Black and white to me suggests a ruggedness as well, a sense of isolation, a sense of realism. And I like the metaphor that we have these characters in a black and white world searching for color. And I think that that's a metaphor for these characters. You know, they are all looking for something. They're all looking for, whether it's love, acceptance, success, fame. They are living in a black and white world searching for color. So the black and white aspect.
Very stunning. And one of our mission statements here at SaltWire with what we do is, one of our North Stars is to provoke thought and action for our audience. If you could talk to somebody who didn't know anything about the film, they went in, they watched it, and they would talk to you about what kind of thought-provoking things they took away from that, what would be some of those things that you want this film to provoke within people in terms of thinking about the bigger issue of mental health and even sometimes the dysfunction and dynamic of family?
Yeah. Well, one thing I would like to point out, that somebody said to me, one of the things that they liked about the film was that it's not preachy. It's not out there to tell them, to give a message. I hope that it's a far more human message than that. The importance of love. Because at the very end of the film, we realize that Rose can only continue in her life the way she has if she has love in her life, you know, and that applies to all of the characters. I think they're all searching for love, for that. So I stayed away. Look, the Canadian mental health, and this is a different topic. The mental health system in this country leaves much to be desired. There are phenomenal people who work in the mental health world, but as a system, it's atrocious. I didn't want to get into that too much with this film, but I did try to give hints of it. Like, there's a scene where Rose has a scene with the doctor, and the doctor is utterly useless. So I think we have to realize that until we can get rid of the stigma attached for people, because it's, you know, there's a lot of talk lately about mental health, and that's all good, but nobody talks about schizophrenia. That's like the one subject, and if you do talk about schizophrenia, everybody goes, oh yeah, the axe murder. You know, it's always in a very ugly way. And even films that have been made, Scott, about schizophrenia. I can think of one, it was on HBO series. You know, in the opening scene, the guy cuts his hand off with a cleaver. And you think, oh, yeah, great, great scene, fine. But that's not the reality, you know, and schizophrenia does exist, as terrible an illness as it is. It does exist on this spectrum. So I wanted to show that people with schizophrenia are human, and that they have, and that sounds so trite to say that, but they have lives. They're searching for lives. You know, but they do need help, whether it's from the mental health system or whether it's from families.
When you've got this creative vision and you're thinking about what you want this film to be and who you're going to cast and what it's going to be like, and you have this vision and you lay it out, you storyboard it, you got it all in your mind, ideally how you would like the finished product to be. Going from what you had when you were ready to start shooting and filming compared to what you saw, the finished product coming out of the edit suite, what was your thoughts in terms of, this is the idea I had and this is the final product? How did the two compare?
I think I think I managed to start and end the film with the kind of film that I wanted. Having said that, there are always compromises in any kind of a film, whether it's a low to mid-budget film like this or it's a big, you're always making compromises. So there were rewrites throughout the day because you only have a 12-hour day, because you only got 15 days to shoot. So there are and such a places, locations not available. So there are always compromises that you're making. But the script that I saw from the beginning and the movie that it came out at the other end, I think, is what I wanted it to happen. And for that, I'm grateful to everyone who worked on the show.
And final thing for you, Barry, through this entire process, now that it's ready to be screened and it's going to be going out to a wide audience, what's been the most satisfying thing for you?
Oh my gosh. I think I can answer that question Monday better than I can today. To try to get a film made, period, is difficult. Any film in this country, and I think anywhere. B, to get it shown is the second thing. I am satisfied. I am totally satisfied. I hope audiences, when they come to see the show, will take some positive things away from it. You know, there's nothing I'm dissatisfied with.
Well, it's a very emotional and moving, powerful film, in my opinion. Shot beautifully, tells a wonderful story. We appreciate your time, Barry. We wish you continued success, not only with the Madones, but also in any future endeavors. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Scott. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
I thought you were looking after her. I took the first 15 years, you take the next 15 years. The Madones! The Madones are dead. She doesn't want you. Neither do you.
Welcome to the asylum.